including Nathan.
Isn't it a fact that your executives at Microsoft back in April of 1995 were concerned that Netscape's web browser posed a threat to Microsoft's Windows platform?
Well,
Can you answer that yes or no, sir?
I don't know when people began to think of Netscape as a competitor to Windows. I don't think it was that early, but it might have been. I know that by late 95, when people thought about the various competitors to Windows, they did think of Netscape.
What's the earliest you could put on the concern expressed to you by Microsoft executives that Netscape posed a threat to the Windows platform?
Asked and answered.
Well, I said that in late 95, I'm pretty sure people thought of them as a competitor. I couldn't name a date earlier than that. I know that online service people were thinking about Netscape and the internet at earlier dates.
Let me ask you a few questions about page 898 of this document, several pages later on. I'll read you the portion of it that I want to ask you some questions about so you have it in mind. The front end, which supports these services, is basically the union of the MSN front end with Blackbird and O'Hare. At some point, this is very smoothly integrated, but first, they are separate pieces of code stuck together at the end-user level. The front end should be given away as widely as possible, including put into Windows. I agree with Paul Maritz's comment that we should distribute the front end very broadly by having it Windows, at least at some point down the line, distributed free on the internet, distributed free with MSN. Recall any general discussion of this subject with Mr. Myhrvold or Mr. Maritz back in April of '95?
I know there was a plan to have Blackbird include all the HTML support, and so it would be a superset in that sense.
Is a reference to O'Hare a reference to Internet Explorer?
Probably. He says, in the memo earlier, he says, I've had people tell me that the O'Hare people either are paren or should be paren, working on their own plan to superset internet protocols. So it appears that the author of this memo is pretty confused about what the O'Hare people are doing and therefore what O'Hare is.
Move to strike the last remark, which was not responsive to any question on the table.
Well, I was answering about what the author of this memo meant by the word O'Hare. And believe me, that sentence that I read to you is very informative on that point.
Isn't it a fact that O'Hare is a code name used on Microsoft for Internet Explorer?
There was a group of people who were looking at doing the Explorer. Nathan says he doesn't know what those people were doing, what their strategy was at this time he wrote the memo.
Okay, move to strike again the last portion of his answer. Okay. See, January 31, '95 memo. Do you know a gentleman by the name of Ben Slivka?
Yes.
What were his responsibilities, if any, at Microsoft back in early 1995?
I'm not sure.
I'd like to mark as Government Exhibit 343 series of emails, the first one being from Alex Saunders to various people at Microsoft, dated January 31, 1995, the subject being frosting and O'Hare. To expedite your review of this document, Mr. Gates, I'll tell you in advance that my questions are going to be limited to the email on the last page of the document. This is an email from Ben Slivka to Tim Harris and others at Microsoft dated February 13, 1995, and does not show you as a recipient,
Which one?
the top one. The first sentence of the email from Mr. Slivka states, quote, "O'Hare is the code name for our internet client, and we plan to ship it in the Win95 frosting package, which sim ships with Win95. Do you understand his reference here to O'Hare and the internet client to be a reference to what became known as Internet Explorer?
Well, I think Internet Explorer 1.0 that was in part of the Windows 95.
Do you recall a plan back in early 1995 to ship a product known as frosting?
I don't recall the plan. I know we worked on what we called frosting.
What is your understanding of what frosting was?
It became the Windows Plus pack. It didn't sim ship, I don't think.
Was it your understanding that at some point in time it was Microsoft's intention to include Internet Explorer in the frosting package as opposed to Windows 95?
Well, for the primary Windows 95 distribution channel, we included Internet Explorer 1.0 with Windows. So when you say Windows 95, it was part of Windows 95. Then there's the Windows 95 upgrade that was sold at retail, which that had a box labeled Windows 95 upgrade and a box labeled Windows 95 Plus pack.
Okay. Do you recall that in or about February 1995, it was Microsoft's intention to include Internet Explorer in the frosting package and not in Windows 95?
No. I think you misunderstood what I said. Windows 95, the full product, included IE. Windows 95, the upgrade product, did not. But Windows 95, the full product, whether sold through the OEM or whatever, that included the capabilities. It was just the upgrade that did not.
I understood your answer. Let me ask the question again because I don't think you understood the question. The question was, is it your understanding that as of February 1995, it was not Microsoft's intention to include Internet Explorer in the full product known as Windows 95?
The product that didn't include Internet Explorer is called the Windows 95 Upgrade. Windows 95, the full product, did include Internet Explorer.
I understood that, I understand that when it was marketed, it included Internet Explorer. And the question is it your recollection that back in February of 1995, it was Microsoft's intention not to include Internet Explorer in Windows 95, but to market it instead as part of the package known as frosting?
And you're talking about the OEM channel in that question? I'm wondering, for the record.
The question is complete as it stands. Can you answer the question, sir?
I'm confused about what you're asking me because you have to differentiate the retail channel, which is the Windows 95 Upgrade, and the Plus Pack from Windows 95, the whole product. Windows 95, the whole product, we wanted to include a lot of features. We don't know for sure which features are going to get done in time until really the product's done. So certainly our intention to do it and working hard on doing it, that plan had existed for a long time. We weren't certain for any feature in Windows 95 exactly what we would decide to get in or not get in. We did in fact get the Internet Explorer 1.0 into the Windows 95 full product.
Do you recall that in or about February 1995, it was Microsoft's intention to ship O'Hare as part of frosting?
The thing that was codenamed O'Hare ended up in the Windows 95 full product as its one place it came, and another place was in the Plus Pack.
Let me ask it one more time. Was it Microsoft's plan as of February 1995 to ship Internet Explorer solely in the frosting package and not in the initial full Windows 1995 package that was to be marketed?
No, our plan was to get it into the Windows 95 full package if possible.
Do you recall that in or about February 1995 it was felt at Microsoft that it was not possible to include O'Hare in the Windows 95 package?
We had a plan to include it if at all possible. In the world of software development, there's always skeptics, so you can name any feature of Windows 95 and you can find somebody who would have been skeptical about whether it would get done or not in time for the shipment of the product. Certainly the people involved in doing the development were working hard, and in fact they succeeded in achieving our plan, which was as best we could to include it in the product, and we did.
Do you recall what the strike that? Do you recall when Microsoft first determined that it would be possible to include IE in Windows 95 that shipped in 1995?
Well, as I've said, until the minute you actually ship a product, you can always change your mind about what's going to be in it and what's not going to be in it. And so there wasn't absolute certainty for the different features until we actually froze the bits.
Now, who was responsible back in 1995 for determining what went into Windows and what didn't?
That's a decision that I would have the final say on.
Who were your senior executives responsible for assisting in that decision?
Moritz.
Okay, I think our videotape operator wants to change the videotape, so we have a short break.
Take a 2-minute break.
Time is 11:15. We're going off the record. This is the end of tape 1 of the deposition of Bill Gates.